A collaborative top 10 2025 NFL mock draft is coming your way today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this?
Nothing.
It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, you know who you are. We appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started.
Joe, happy Victory Tuesday to all who are celebrating, aka Texans fans. You will not be represented in today's show. Our condolences to you for that. Also, 22 other teams will not be represented in today's show because we are looking at the current NFL draft order, and we are collectively going to agree upon a pick to make for each of the top 10. So Joe's dipping his toe, his big toe, like SpongeBob with the big toe when he's driving the. You see that?
Yeah, no idea.
He can't pass driving school. So they're trying to teach him how to pass driving school. And they so big toe. So his big toe pops up out of his shoe and he gently places it on the accelerator. And that's how he learns how to like not put your pedal to the metal when you're driving the car.
Doesn't he live in the ocean?
Yeah.
Why does he? Wait, why
does
he?
It's a boat. It's an underwater boat that you drive like a car.
A submarine.
No, a boat. It's an open top because they're all underwater creatures, so they need the water.
I can't.
Don't worry about it. It's not, the reference is not for you. It's fine. Joe's dipping his toe in mock draft exercise. So I've done a bunch from this year. But the collaborative effort was what we thought would be a lot of fun. And us having some semblance of self-awareness, we knew there was a 0% chance we'd do a full first round, all 32 picks, and collectively have to agree upon who to pick with each of them. So we are instead going to look at the current top 10 draft order, which is Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland. Jacksonville, the only team to have clinched a losing record this season.
Big dubs. Congrats. Yeah.
No, I don't know about that. Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, New York Giants, Las Vegas Raiders, top 5. New England Patriots, New York Jets, Carolina Panthers, Dallas Cowboys, New Orleans Saints. Joe, for the first time in like a month, the AFC East does not have 3 teams in the top 10.
I was like, what are you talking about here? The AFC's. Yeah. Shout out to the Miami Dolphins. What did back-to-back wins, getting out of the top 10, you know?
For now, we play a team in the New England Patriots. It's also trying to climb out of the top 10 next week. But we're going to start this with Jacksonville, who's in a really, I think, an awkward spot when you consider what their needs are as a team. Not having a quarterback need with Trevor Lawrence getting a contract extension. Would love to get an offensive lineman, but this is just not the class for it, in my opinion. So I have a really hard time looking at Will Campbell and Calvin Banks, whoever else that you want to invoke here, Ariante Ursary from Minnesota. Like, these are kind of contenders for top offensive tackle, and I don't even think Will Campbell is a tackle. So it kind of puts you in an awkward spot if you're Jacksonville, I think.
I think if we're not going to have trades here, then they just got to pick the best player, right?
Well, that can be open for debate as well.
Well, I think the best player is either Travis Hunter or Will Johnson.
Right.
And one of them has a little bit more that they can do given their offensive background. I just kind of feel like it needs to be Travis Hunter.
I think Travis Hunter is the best player in the draft. And I know a lot of people in the draft space are debating the merits of Travis Hunter is he as good of a corner as Will Johnson is? Is he as good of a wide receiver as some of the other guys at wide receiver are? But it's the multiplicity of it and the amount of ways that he can impact your roster that I think that compounding on top of each other. If you looked at who's a better corner right now, I probably would say Will Johnson's a better corner right now. But the future and the ceiling and knowing that he's investing half his time in a position that he's probably not going to play in the NFL, and what that means relative to how instinctive he is, despite of that, is the case. So I've been putting Travis Hunter to Jacksonville for the mocks that I've done where they're picking at 1, just because it's best player situation. We are not doing trades, and therefore I'm down with Travis Hunter if you are.
And Bill Belichick, he'll mess around with these two-way players, man. He's got a long history of doing that. So
Troy Brown, right?
Troy Brown, Marcus Jones, come on now.
Vince Wilfork getting a little offensive run.
Yeah, I thought there's another one too. Whose name is going to escape me? Didn't
Vrabel catch a few touchdown passes?
He did. Kyle, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I seen Rob Gronkowski play deep safety as well.
Oh yeah, that was my favorite one.
Come on now.
Just don't ask him to take any angles in space because he won't have them.
Yeah.
All right. We'll dunk on the Patriots again a little later here.
Cool.
The Titans at 2.
We got to be thinking about a quarterback here, right?
Probably.
I mean, I think Will Levis has been a little bit better lately, but you have your choice of quarterbacks. You're in year 2 of a regime here, and you were pretty aggressive with how you were able to build up the roster a little bit in the offseason. And I just don't feel like, even if Will Levis is playing better, I don't think he's ever going to be a great fit for what Brian Callahan wants to do offensively. So to me, I think the conversation's between which quarterback to pick. I'm not sure we should be considering a different position.
Well, I think if you look at some of the needs on the Titans roster, wide receiver is a need. With Calvin Ridley locked in, is it going to happen for Treylon Burks?
No, obviously not. No.
Okay, so now we have Tyler Boyd. They traded DeAndre Hopkins. Like, you're very suddenly, and look, Nick Westbrook-Ikine had a great play last week, but
he's a great 4th receiver, right?
And he is 3 months away from being your wide receiver 2. So it's a position of need, and I think you think about Tet McMillan and what he brings to the table. He'll be a top 10. I would be surprised if we don't find a spot for Tet McMillan somewhere here. Mm-hmm. If you're thinking about guys in the secondary, they spent a lot, but you have Chidobe Awuzie, who's an expensive and older player. Now he's got several years left on his deal. He's under contract through 2020, end of 2026.
I kind of like Jarvis Brownlee as a young player for them at corner as well to go with Snead.
And Roger McCreary.
Yeah, it's in the slot.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's wide receiver or quarterback here.
Yeah. It's how much do you put in the basket of Will Levis versus what these quarterbacks are? I think Shedeur Sanders is a much better fit,
right,
stylistically, than what Cam Ward is of the 2 rookie quarterbacks. It's just a matter of Shedeur versus Will Levis versus opportunity cost and going somewhere else. And then, if you make that commitment, now you're on the clock as the coaching staff, right?
Yeah. And I think that division's pretty ripe. And Tennessee gets a new stadium in 2026. Let's give us a young quarterback, man.
Okay.
I kind of like Shedeur, and I feel like there's enough reason for me to believe that could actually happen for me to feel comfortable putting him there.
Okay, so we'll do Shedeur at 2, which leaves the Cleveland Browns now on the clock at 3. Another potential quarterback need spot.
Yeah. I think we have to, dude. We have to. We have to.
He's going to be here for at least.
I don't care. We have to.
They're going to be bad again. It's going to be a better quarterback class. It's. You mean to tell me you wouldn't mind Martin Emerson's regressed at corner, Will Johnson?
You could convince me there, but
right, you wouldn't mind Mason Graham at defensive tackle.
What they really need is an offensive tackle.
That I can't help you with.
Cannot help you with that.
But my point is, Cleveland's at this intersection where can you get Jameis back under contract again? Like if Jameis plays decently enough and not invest half of the years of your rookie quarterback contract.
Okay, so you're
with Deshaun Watson financially dumping your roster spend.
You're punting on 2025.
I think it's going to take longer than just the 2025 offseason to get out of the mess of this contract.
Well, then we got to pick the best player. If we're not ready for a quarterback, we're not ready for a quarterback. All right, Will Johnson.
Will Johnson, I think, is the best player. He has the physicality of Martin Emerson without the regression of Martin Emerson. I know Johnson's been banged up a little bit this year, but it's kind of giving you Derek Stingley type vibes where like he was unbelievable as a freshman.
Yeah.
I thought he was better as a freshman than he was as a sophomore, and now he's banged up a little bit, but it doesn't take away from just how like physically good and instinctive and prototype he is at the position.
All right. 3 picks in the books. Coming up next, Giants, Raiders, Patriots, and Jets. Be sure to stick with us. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct, and just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how you use it. Step 1, you drink pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, and get yourself a good night's sleep. Step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use LockedOnNFL at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Folks, get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Speaking of FanDuel, which one of these Week 12 underdogs do you like the best? Cardinals at Seattle, Cardinals plus 1.5. Eagles at Rams, Rams plus 3 at home. Or Ravens at Chargers, Chargers plus 3 at home. We get some bangers in the Week 12 slate.
Yeah, I like the Chargers as home underdogs. I do. I might pick that.
Get in front of it early. Don't do it after we do the Thursday show because we get that line movement.
Yeah.
We gas it up. Everybody floods the FanDuel and gets their bets in, and then we move the lines. So let's try to move the needle for the New York Giants.
All right, I've tried to convince you that we needed to take a quarterback with the Browns. We got to take a quarterback with the Giants. Right?
This is not negotiable. This is not negotiable. This should be Cam Ward. As far as I think there's significant separation between those two guys and the rest of the class. Garrett Nussmeier has regressed throughout the course of this season. There are a couple other intriguing guys with high-end tools, like Jalen Milroe. Are you ready to have a conversation about him being a top 10 pick? I don't know that I am.
I saw a lot of mock drafts that have him as a top 10 pick.
Yeah. Look, he's going to be a 220-pound quarterback with a cannon for an arm that runs probably a 4.4 flat. Like, that's going to get you drafted in a certain stratosphere. I don't know that for a team like New York that needs to figure out the offensive infrastructure and have some consistency with it, the developmental guy is not, I think, the guy that you lean into. Cam Ward has made the leap this year already with the fundamentals of operating a passing offense.
And there's a level of excitement that I get if Brian Daboll does stick around and gets a chance to work with Cam Ward. with some of the offensive pieces that exist that are already in place. So
Right.
this feels really easy. I think this might be the easiest pick yet.
Yes. And they've made the decision this week to bench Daniel Jones. They put him at quarterback 3 to guarantee that they weren't going to have to pay him the injury guarantees in his contract.
What team is Daniel Jones starting for next year, though?
I don't know that he's starting.
Oh, come on now. He's a week 1 starter for some team next year.
I don't know. I
Who's it going to be?
I think he's got a really great opportunity to go be a backup somewhere because
Rehab year?
We do the rehab year. Go replace Trubisky in Buffalo.
He's Mitch Stein for 2 years. He's back, baby.
Oh, dang. All right.
Yeah, he can't do that. That'd be the best thing for him. But he'd be somebody's starters next year. Promise you. Daniel Jones will be starting games for someone.
I don't think so. We might make that a draft dude's bet. I'll see if I feel the same way at the end of the year.
Speaking of which, I think my Jonnu Smith bet, baby. We'll do that's a different conversation.
Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I nailed it.
Should we do the bets show tomorrow? Do an update on the bets?
Yeah, maybe we should. We're scratching.
We're doing draft today.
Yeah, that's good. We'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, cool. Raiders at 5, and they are screwed with the way the board fell
here. They are screwed, but also this is a team that just needs playmakers right on offense.
Yeah, I think they need playmakers. I think in general, I think this roster is in pretty rough shape.
Correct. I would argue that the defensive playmakers are the defensive players are more attractive to me right here. But we can't go to war with like Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker as our top 2 receivers, right? That's not a thing.
That's where we're at right now.
Is this a Tet McMillan spot?
Probably, with the way that the board fell. I don't like any of the other quarterbacks in this stratosphere. If you personally have the flavor of a quarterback that you like, I'm not saying you. I know we're here on this. Sure. Like, does Penn State make the playoff and Drew Aller finally have a breakthrough and win some big games? Like, I could see him playing himself into the first round. He's made some nice strides this year, but like, we're just not there yet. So I'm good with Tet McMillan to the Raiders as a X that you can isolate away from the passing formational strength. And then you have Brock Bowers to kind of find soft spaces based off route distribution elsewhere. And you could trust Ted on the backside to play through physical press coverage. He can win vertically down the field. He can run in breakers through contact. He can create some separation. He's got really good hands. Like, I think that math proposition for 3-by-1 formations and leaving him isolated as the X receiver, and then what that does for Brock Bowers as far as route distribution on the front side is a really nice 1-2 punch.
Daniel Jones to Tet McMillan and Brock Bowers.
With the Daniel Jones, we can't.
Don't you know how this goes, man? These quarterbacks, top 10 quarterbacks get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity.
Raiders starting quarterback Joe Flacco next year.
Boy, I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
I don't know that I would. That's a conversation for today.
I'd rather have Daniel Jones.
You know who doesn't have to worry about this mess? The Patriots, who are picking at 6.
Man, what a fun opportunity for them in this spot, right?
Yeah. They could go a lot of different directions here.
Tons.
Some of our best players available right now are Boise running back Ashton Jeanty, Michigan defensive tackle Mason Graham, safety Malachi Starks from Georgia, Abdul Carter, the defensive weapon from Penn State, Siobhan Revel, corner from ECU. I'm super high on James Pierce, edge rusher, Will Campbell on the offensive line, Kelvin Banks on the offensive line. What do you think?
I like Jalen Walker. You did the thing. You said Jamie Collins when we did him last week.
I did.
Come on, man. Well, they don't. Who's their edge rush talent? I think Keon White. I know that, but you just trade away Josh Uche. Let's go.
So
let's get Jalen Walker.
If we're going to do this, we need to have the Abdul Carter conversation, because everybody's going to hear. Oh, they're going defensive weapon, can move around. It's going to be Abdul Carter. Give me your elevator pitch on why you like Jalen Walker. I am with you. I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm with you. Yeah. I did both guys in the past week and did like a final eval grade for like the film. I have Jalen Walker graded marginally ahead of Abdul Carter.
Well, obviously Penn State edge rushers are never good in the NFL, so that's why. Come on, man. I had to do that. That's a dig at myself, okay?
Huh.
No, I think he deconstructs blocks better. I think that's what it comes down to. I think they're both phenomenal athletes. They're both insane freaks, but I just feel like Jalen Walker, when presented with contact, I think he clears it better. That's what it comes down to for me.
So I think he deconstructs blocks better, and I think he gives you a bigger run defense menu for the ways in which you can use him.
Yeah.
Where Abdul is, I actually think I don't see any ceiling to playing him off the ball. I see some viability with Jalen Walker off the ball. And I know that they have a bunch of guys that can play off the ball, but like those guys are also capable of walking up and playing on the edge.
Yeah.
Like Tavai and, they have some ability to do that. And then they further blur those lines with like Anthony Jennings too, is a guy who has early in his career played some off the ball and is now a little bit more of a prominent edge guy. This is like the supercharged version of Anthony Jennings.
Yeah. So supercharged. He ate, you ever seen Mario? He eats the mushrooms. He gets bigger.
Yeah. No.
Come on.
Yeah. I see that totally. So I am good with Jalen Walker being the pick here. I do think Abdul Carter has a better ceiling as a pass rusher, but I think specifically for this defense and the bones of New England and Bill Belichick and what's left over there from Gerard Mayo, like as a scheme-specific type of talent, I like Jalen Walker here as the fit too, if we're going to go this direction.
All right.
You want to do 7 through 10 on the back?
Yeah, and I got some convictions about some of these picks here, Kyle Krabs.
Great. Yeah, me too.
If you agree. So, yeah. All right, stick with us. We'll get to it. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent. Every month, pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or hotel stay with over 500 airlines and 700,000 hotels and properties. You can also use your points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards a future rent payment. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through the Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built points have consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL. That's joinbilt.com/LockedOnNFL. Make sure to use our URL so they know that we sent you. Joinbuilt.com/LockedOnNFL to start earning points with your rent payments today.
The New York Jets.
Sprint to the podium.
Mason Graham?
Yeah, Mason Graham, obviously the choice here. Defensive tackle from Michigan. The defensive line stinks with the Jets, man. They need a running mate for Quinnen Williams. They were unserious thinking that Javon Kinlaw was going to be that guy. This would be a heck of a pair. You get Quinnen with Mason Graham. Like, I hope it doesn't happen. As a rival fan, I don't want this to happen, which is why they should want it to.
Yeah, I am with you on this fit. The only other player that I would give consideration to is Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, who I think is equally as good of a talent at safety as Mason Graham is at defensive tackle. And I think long-term Jets would benefit from having a player like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to pay everybody in that secondary, right? So having somebody with some versatility would be nice, but it's Quinnen and a bunch of guys that they rolled the dice on the interior, and Mason Graham I think alleviates that and can be a high volume snap taker. So I'm good with that being the pick.
I don't know how you watch what Brian Branch has done with the Lions and thumb your nose at the idea of Malachi Starks as a pick for anybody at any point in the draft, right? Just massively valuable.
Yeah, and Malachi Starks is a bigger and more dynamic player than Brian Branch from like an athleticism standpoint. Because that was the knock on Branch was wasn't the biggest guy, and he ran a 4.6. Who cares? He's an elite instinct player with a ton of versatility. Starks is all that, and he's probably going to run in the high 4.4s. As a bigger player, like top-end tackler, he's going to be a good ad for somebody. I don't know that we'll find the fits here along the way in the next 3 picks because we have Carolina, Dallas, and New Orleans. But let's start with the Panthers.
I think phase one of my thoughts here with Carolina is I have a little bit of a challenging time not wanting to do something here to help the offense, but I feel like the best players are on defense. I mean, the best player available is Ashton Jeanty. We just paid Chuba Hubbard. We just drafted Jonathan Brooks. Like
we can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
The next pick will be real easy, but for Carolina, it's like certainly they could use pass rush. They need that in a big way. Abdul Carter's sitting right here.
So they're stable on the offensive line. They have Moton locked in through end of 2025. They have Iquanu with a fifth-year option decision to make this year for 2026. Robert Hunt and Damian Lewis are locked in on long-term contracts that they just signed. So it's fair to eliminate the offensive line for Carolina. Yeah. Wide receiver, it's Leggett, Adam Thielen, who's in a contract year in 2025 as a mid-30s wide receiver. Jalen Coker is an exclusive rights free agent after the year, so he'll be back. I think you can make a case for wide receiver for Carolina. But the edge rush room moved on from, I mean, they were flirting with trading Clowney, but Clowney is technically under contract in 2025, so that's something to watch. But they made concessions on this side of the ball. I mean, they get a lot of turnover coming in the secondary, too. Where Fuller's an expiring contract for them. Xavier Woods is an expiring contract for them.
I think this comes down to, do you force the wide receiver, which is, I think, potentially their biggest need? And I don't necessarily think another wide receiver is what they need. I think that they should use their resources to bring in veteran talent. Or do you look at these defensive players, whether that's Malachi Starks or Abdul Carter, or if you like Siobhan Revel, like I feel like you're getting your best player is going to come with the defensive investment.
I think you could also put James Pierce in this conversation too.
They have no pass rush, dude.
Yeah. So are we assuming Avero's back?
I would think so. I don't think he'll leave for a head coaching job, and I don't think they'll fire him.
So I think the best prospect out of this group is Malachi Starks. He plays the least valuable position of all three guys from a positional value standpoint.
Yeah. I think the best player is Starks.
Authentic best talent. Siobhan Revel, small school player coming off of a season-ending knee injury in September. I could see why that would hurt him, especially if he's not able to go through the pre-draft process from an athletic standpoint. I think that does probably predictively push him down a little bit. So I would move Revel out of this conversation. Which of the two edge guys do you like best for Avero between Pierce and Abdul Carter?
I think Pierce is probably the more pure pass rusher. I think Carter's got the higher ceiling and more versatility.
I agree with you. I think there's more you can do with Abdul Carter, where I think Pierce is Brian Burns-esque.
Yeah.
Even from like a build and the style in which he wins perspective. They just traded that player. They don't want to pay that player. I know that was not necessarily the build up to that, not all this regime, but I would kind of want to make this conversation, I think, between Carter and Starks.
I agree. So we both think that Starks is the better prospect. We think that Carter's the premium position guy, right?
Premium position guy. He also has the ceiling. He's just got to figure out how to play the run on the edge. I didn't think he was overly instinctive playing the run on the second level, and then he moved up on the edge, and now there's a whole block recognition and play diagnosis in the run game that's kind of a work in progress. He has really nice flashes with like the penetration stuff. He can deconstruct blocks as a pass rusher, and his second level like reactiveness and twitch is there. But it's just the recognition. I think he's a less instinctive player right now because he just changed positions than Malachi Starks.
You have any convictions here?
I think predictively the league would go with the edge guy.
I tend to agree.
All right. So,
but I think I could certainly talk you and I into Malachi Starks.
Yeah, I would take Malachi Starks, but I don't think the league would do that.
All right. So there you go. There's a blend of a predictive outcome and a what we would do outcome.
Which brings up the Dallas Cowboys.
Ashton Jeanty.
He's the best player available. I know some Cowboys fans are going to want you to spend a top 10 pick on a running back, but like, it's an elite football player.
Didn't he have some quotes recently as well about how he
Wanting
wanted
to
to go
play for Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like get your jersey now. What numbers you wear? You know,
Right. It's such a no-brainer for me from a talent perspective, a team that has a willingness to invest in this position, in this stratosphere based on like this entire regime was here when they did Zeke in the top 5. They desperately need help running the ball.
This is a better prospect than Zeke, too.
He is a better prospect than Zeke, I think. And he creates so much yardage for himself. He's not, and they've made investments in the offensive line.
Yeah.
I think that an offensive scheme change would be very helpful to kind of getting them back on track. I'm in. Ashton Jeanty to the Cowboys.
Last one, Saints.
Saints. Oh, boy. What do we do here?
Try to get him a good player.
I am going to observe their expiring contracts because they probably won't be able to re-sign any of them just based on how
right
their world works. So we have Paulson Adebo is an expiring contract, and they've traded Marshawn Lattimore. They're still good with Alontae Taylor and Kool-Aid McKinstry, but that has not stopped them in the past from continuously swinging the bat at this position. So I think it's a position to at least be aware of relative to who we have as talent that's available on the board. Up front, Chase Young's an expiring contract. Cam Jordan's a potential casualty for this football team this offseason. He's one of the few exit ramps that they potentially have to take. How many eggs do you want to put in the Isaiah Foskey basket on the edge? I think there's a reasonable need at pass rusher. Ryan Ramczyk is a potential retirement candidate. Trevor Penning, they have a 5th-year option decision to make. I'd be surprised if they took it.
He's playing better, though. But, yeah, that's a meaningful commitment there. I feel like it's a lot of the same players we just talked about with Carolina and Starks just because of who he is, and Pierce.
Can we have an uncomfortable conversation about Chris Olave too?
Yeah, we need to. His concussion history is very concerning.
Yeah. And like
he's coming off an injury too.
He's coming off an injury, so it's like Cedric Wilson and Valdez Scantling, who's in a contract year himself, and Bub Means and EQ St. Brown. So
I think for them too, I wouldn't dismiss Will Campbell predictably. They have their choice of offensive linemen.
Right, because I think he can play some tackle. I think he can play guard.
Right. They need a left guard, right?
Yeah, and they've used draft capital in the first round on interior players before.
Yeah.
Right, when you consider Cesar Ruiz win the first round.
Yep.
So Malachi Starks, Siobhan Revel, James Pierce, Nick Scorton, Isaiah Bond, Will Campbell. Anybody you just don't like at all?
I think there's some that I like more than others. I think for me, it's down to Starks, Campbell, and Pierce. But Nick Scorton is very much like
he's their type.
He's their type. And if they move on from Jordan and obviously Chase Young,
which I think they're going to, I kind of
their tendencies kind of tell us that they're going to go with the D line.
Yeah, I would be inclined to pick Nick Scorton from a style of play, build.
That's what I said. I said you draft him and hope that he becomes Cam Jordan.
There you go.
Let's do that.
We're going to draft him and hope he becomes Cam Jordan for the New Orleans Saints.
Right.
So that's a collaborative top 10 mock draft between Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino here on Locked NFL Scouting Draft Dudes. Travis Hunter to the Jags, Shedeur Sanders to the Tennessee Titans, Will Johnson to the Browns, Cam Ward to the Giants, Tet McMillan to the Las Vegas Raiders, Jalen Walker to the New England Patriots, Mason Graham to the New York Jets, Abdul Carter to the Carolina Panthers, Ashton Jeanty to the Dallas Cowboys, and Nick Scorton to the New Orleans Saints. That is going to do it for us here on the show. We hope you guys enjoyed. Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, come back and see us again tomorrow and the rest of the week as we get ready for week 12 of the NFL season.